Welcome to Payback with Silas. Every day, a new story, lies, betrayal, payback. Let's begin.
You'd think betrayal only stings when it comes from family. But let me tell you, what hurts more is when you realize your second family, the one you built with sweat and time, never really saw you as part of it at all. My name is Elias Crow. I'm 55 years old. And up until a few months ago, I was the Senior Operations Director at Halverson Dynamics, a mid-sized logistics and tech firm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. 18 years. That's how long I gave them. Not just time, my time. Missed birthdays. Anniversary dinners eaten alone by my wife. My daughter Ren once told her teacher her dad lived in a suitcase. She was 6. I laughed at the time. But it wasn't funny. It was truth wearing a child's smile. I started at Halverson when it was a tin can startup with rusty servers and no processes. I helped build the bones of that place. Ran point during the 2008 crash, kept morale afloat during the 2020 lockdowns. Saved 2 major contracts by flying out to Boise in the middle of a damn snowstorm, knowing full well I had pneumonia. No one asked me to. I just knew what the company needed. So when our VP of Operations, Miles Jacoby, a guy 10 years my junior with a penchant for buzzwords and expensive espresso machines, called me into his office, I figured it was for another fireside session. Strategy talk. Maybe even, just maybe, a long overdue conversation about pushing me up into executive leadership. Instead, I walked into a firing squad. Miles didn't even look me in the eye at first. Just tapped his pen on the table, glanced at his laptop, and said, "Eli, listen. We've been having some tough conversations upstairs. The board and I feel it's time for a new chapter. New energy, new blood, you know?" I blinked. "What are you saying?" He sighed like this was hard for him. "Your position's being transitioned. Effective immediately." "Then this is the part that burned," he added. "Your time came and went, old man. You've done enough. Now it's someone else's turn." Old man. That word hung in the air like cigarette smoke in a sealed room. I looked to the side. And that's when I saw him, Brendan Stokes. Fresh out of Wharton, no real-world scars, hair so perfect it looked digital. And oh yeah, married to the CEO's daughter. I didn't say anything. Not at first. Just stood there. They expected outrage. Some begging maybe. A tantrum. But all I said was, "Got it." I walked out of that office with my back straight. Didn't even bother to pack the whole desk. Just took the photo of my family from when Ren was still in braces and my nameplate, the one I'd kept polished since 2007. And my dignity. Funny thing about dignity, you don't realize how heavy it is until you're carrying it alone through a parking lot while the place you gave your life to pretends it never needed you. But here's what they didn't know. I'd been getting calls for years. From our biggest rival, Mercer Thorne Global Logistics. And tomorrow, I was going to call them back. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of stress, out of clarity. It's strange. You spend so many years in a place, fighting for it like it's your own child, and then one moment, one sentence, and it all turns to smoke. But in that smoke, I saw things clearer than I had in years. I sat in my kitchen at 4 a.m., drinking coffee from a mug that said, #OneDad, a Father's Day gift from 2009. I looked around. My wife, Marion, was still asleep upstairs. She didn't know I'd been fired yet. Or transitioned, as Miles so politely put it. I didn't want to wake her with the weight of it. Not yet. So instead, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old emails. I knew it was there. And it was. An email from Lauren Dax, Executive VP at Mercer Thorne. Subject line: Lunch? It was dated March 15th. 3 months ago. One of 5 she'd sent this year alone. Lauren wasn't just some recruiter fishing for talent. We had history. Back in the early days, when Halverson and Mercer were both crawling out of the mud, Lauren and I worked on a failed merger that almost happened. We were on opposite sides of the table, but there was a mutual respect there. She was sharp, no nonsense, and had that rare thing, integrity. She didn't bluff. She didn't beg. She offered what she meant. So I hit reply. Subject lunch? Lauren. Let's talk. Tomorrow, noon. You pick the spot. Eli. She responded in 8 minutes flat. Eli. Been waiting for this day. See you at Delaney's on 5th. Private booth. Bring your appetite. L. The next day, I walked into Delaney's wearing the same suit I'd worn during my first pitch to the State Transportation Board back in 2011. Navy blue, clean lines still fit. My lucky suit. Lauren was already seated, sipping a club soda with a lemon slice. She stood when she saw me. Eli Crow, she said, smiling wide. The man of the hour. Apparently I've got a lot more hours now, I said, half joking. She looked me in the eye. You're too damn sharp to be unemployed. Tell me what happened. I gave her the short version, Brendan Stokes. New blood. Kicked to the curb. Lauren didn't blink. Typical Halverson. Short-sighted as hell. We've seen it coming. Honestly, I was hoping they'd be stupid enough to let you go. She slid a leather folder across the table. Here's what I'm offering, she said. Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. Your own team. Competitive salary, but the real power is in autonomy. You won't answer to middlemen. You'll answer to me. That's it. I opened the folder. My eyes scanned numbers that made my pulse jump. Not just base salary. Equity. Bonuses. A relocation stipend if I wanted to bring Marion and I closer to HQ in Denver. But the money wasn't what hooked me. It was the last page. Full authority to restructure operational infrastructure across domestic branches. She was handing me the keys. Not to a job. To a legacy. I looked at her. You serious? Lauren leaned forward. You were building empires for other people, Eli. How about you build one for yourself this time? I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. I reached out my hand. We shook on it. That night, I told Marianne everything. She didn't cry. She just listened. Then she hugged me tighter than she had in weeks. You're not done, she said. You're just getting started. And for the first time in a long, long time, I believed it. They flew me out to Denver 3 days later. The Mercer Thorne headquarters was nothing like Halverson's cluttered, gray maze of cubicles and passive-aggressive motivational posters. This place breathed intention, high ceilings, glass offices, teams moving like clockwork. People looked me in the eye when they passed. They nodded like they knew who I was. And more importantly, like they respected it. Lauren met me in the executive wing. She wasn't one for small talk. Your office is down the hall. First task, restructure Southeast operations. Atlanta's bleeding, Jacksonville's frozen, and Nashville's running on fumes. Think you can handle that? I smirked. That's cute. You're trying to challenge me. She laughed. Just trying to remind you what a real fight feels like. The first few weeks were a blur. I flew out to Atlanta with 2 suitcases and a notepad. No entourage. No PowerPoints. I didn't come in waving a title. I came to listen. I met with field teams, warehouse crews, drivers, analysts. I took notes like a rookie. People underestimated that. Listening. But that's where the real cracks show up, in the side comments, in the silence after a paused sentence. Turns out, Atlanta was failing not from incompetence, but from neglect. They'd been using outdated routing software, were short-staffed, and had no unified communication between hubs. 3 months of patchwork from people doing double shifts and no support from corporate. Sound familiar? It was Halverson all over again. Only this time, I was the one in charge. And I wasn't going to let these people drown. I built a new ops framework from the ground up. Got the Jacksonville team on a shared system within 10 days. Rerouted Nashville's overnight fleet through Montgomery, saved $180,000 in fuel within the first month. Reorganized management structure, promoted 2 junior analysts I spotted during a warehouse walkthrough. They'd been quietly outperforming their managers for months. I didn't play politics. I played results. And the numbers started climbing. Fast. By month 2, we'd shaved 16% off regional delivery delays. Satisfaction scores with corporate support doubled. Word started to spread internally. Then came the phone call. It was late. I was in the hotel gym, walking on a treadmill, reading quarterly reports on my phone. The name lit up on my screen like a ghost. Miles Jacoby. Halverson Dynamics. I just stared at it for a moment. Let it ring twice more. Then I answered. Elias, he said. His voice had that nervous tension, like a man trying to sound calm in a burning building. Hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I doubt you've ever caught me at a good one, Miles. What's up? He cleared his throat. Just checking in. Heard you landed at Mercer. Impressive. I didn't reply. He filled the silence. Listen, Brendan, the new guy, he's been having some trouble adjusting. Some key clients aren't thrilled with the changes. Your name's come up. Just wondering if maybe you'd be open to consulting. There it was. The quiet panic. The not-so-veiled plea. I almost laughed. But instead, I gave him the only thing worse than a no. I hung up. I didn't need to say anything. Because silence, when earned, speaks louder than anything else. I wasn't going back. I wasn't cleaning up after Brendan. I was building something better. Stronger. And this time? It had my name on it. They say a leader is only as strong as the people around him. At Halverson, I learned how not to lead, through ego, through fear, through top-down synergy. Buzzwords that meant nothing when the trucks stopped rolling and deadlines slipped. But here, at Mercer, I had room to do it my way. The first thing I did? I built my team. Not yes-men. Not corporate climbers. Operators. Fighters. Problem solvers. People with grit, scars, and humility. I brought in Maddie Reno from Boston, a freight analytics genius who left her last job because her male boss took credit for her AI routing model. She showed me the receipts. I made her director of systems intelligence within a week. Then there was Arturo Dean, quiet guy, ex-Marine, warehouse manager in Oklahoma who turned a failing branch into a national benchmark. Halverson let him walk after a minor compliance issue he didn't even cause. I called him myself. 2 conversations later, he was overseeing 3 regional hubs. I even recruited someone from Halverson. Someone they didn't value. Her name was Jordan Keyes. 29. Used to run metrics for Southeast distribution. Bright, organized, way too driven to be stuck under Brendan Stokes' flailing shadow. She met me in secret. Coffee shop in Durham. I'll come, she said, eyes steady. But only if I get to do real work. Not fluff. No committees. You'll be too busy for fluff, I told her. We're building something serious. By month 3, we were no longer improving Southeast operations, we were dominating. Client churn dropped 41%. We won back 2 of Mercer's oldest clients who had defected years ago, to Halverson. Oh, the irony? We were lean. Fast. Precise. And the culture? It changed overnight. People walked into meetings prepared. Field teams stopped hiding problems, they shared them, knowing we'd solve them together. Middle management stopped posturing and started executing. I held Friday calls with every level of the operation. Not to lecture, to listen. To connect. Because I remembered what it felt like to be in the trenches while someone in a corner office sent Synergy Initiative emails. Then, one day, I got a message on our internal company system. It was simple. From Lauren Dax. Subject: big win. Body: Coca-Cola just signed a 3-year Southeast shipping contract. You closed it without even knowing. You and your people earned this. Come upstairs. Bring your team leads. Drinks are on me. I sat in that moment longer than I probably should have. Not because I was shocked, but because it felt right. I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I wasn't hoping someone noticed. This wasn't about revenge. Not anymore. It was about proof. Proof that 55 doesn't mean finished. That wisdom beats trendiness. That loyalty, when given to the right people, doesn't make you weak, it makes you unstoppable. I looked at my reflection in the glass of my office door before heading to the elevator. No tie. Sleeves rolled. A little grayer than before. But the fire? Still there. We were on a roll. Momentum like I hadn't felt in years. Numbers were up, morale was sky high, and even the boardroom, which I'd always treated like a necessary evil, felt like a place of strategy instead of theater. But that's when they showed up. The past has a funny way of circling back when you stop looking over your shoulder. It started with a rumor. I was in the middle of a 7 a.m. operations check-in when Maddie pinged me privately. Heard Halverson's trying to underbid us for the Pacific Ridge contract. Thought you should know. Pacific Ridge. A billion-dollar retail logistics chain. We'd been nurturing that deal for 4 months. Custom pricing models, pilot programs in Arizona, integrated routing tech. It was practically sealed. And now Halverson wanted to snake it from under us. Typical. I kept my cool. Outwardly, at least. But inside, I felt the old tension. Not fear, principle. I could smell Miles Jacoby all over this. And I was right. A week later, Pacific Ridge's procurement head, Siobhan Kells, asked for a sudden meeting. Said Halverson had made an aggressive last-minute offer. Asked if Mercer could match. I flew out that night. Met her in person the next morning in San Diego. And who was waiting in the lobby with her? Brendan Stokes. Wearing a smirk. That same smug, polished look like life had never said no to him. He offered his hand. I didn't take it. Still bitter, Eli? He said under his breath. I smiled. Not bitter. Just busy winning. We both knew what this was, a battle of reputation. And for the first time in his short, charmed career, Brendan was walking into a fight he couldn't charm his way through. The meeting started with numbers. He offered massive cuts. Short-term cost advantages. The kind of promises that sound sweet in a PowerPoint but rot on the delivery dock. I let him finish. Then I stood up. I didn't bring charts. I didn't even open my laptop. I looked at Siobhan and her team and said, here's what I know. We don't undercut to win. We outperform. Check our metrics. Our fulfillment rate. Our transparency. Talk to our mid-levels. Hell, call our truck drivers. You'll hear the same thing. They trust us because we earn it every single day. I leaned forward, not aggressively, honestly. I won't insult you by promising miracles. I'll promise you consistency. We don't vanish after the ink dries. We show up. Then I sat down. Brendan looked like he'd swallowed a stapler. 2 days later, the deal closed, with us. Siobhan called me personally. Her exact words. Anyone can flash numbers. You gave us confidence. And I don't buy from people I don't believe in. That contract wasn't just a win, it was a message. Loud and clear. Mercer was rising. And I wasn't some relic from a bygone era. I was the standard. A week later, Miles tried calling me again. This time I answered. Eli, he said, trying too hard to sound casual. Hell of a win on Pacific Ridge. Can't say I'm not impressed. I said nothing. He shifted. Listen, if you ever want to talk about, coming back. In an advisory role, maybe. Stop, I cut in. Miles, you made your decision. So did I. He tried to keep his voice light. No hard feelings, right? I paused. No feelings at all, Miles. That's what happens when you burn the bridge and the river beneath it. I hung up. And that was the last time I ever heard from Halverson Dynamics. They say some ghosts knock at your door just to see if they can still haunt you. I made sure mine knew. This house is clean. 6 months in, the office door had my name on it. Elias Crow, Senior Vice President, Strategic Operations. I used to laugh at titles like that. At Helverson, they handed them out like holiday fruit baskets, fancy on the outside, rotten by New Year's. But here, at Mercer, it meant something. It meant ownership. Not just of my work, but of my people, my choices, my name. Because legacy isn't a gift. It's not handed down by some board of directors. It's earned, hour by hour, day by day, in the dark corners where no one's watching. I stood in the Denver HQ war room, watching a live dashboard update in real time. Jacksonville was 98.7% on time. Atlanta's new modular rollout cut delays in half. Nashville, once a dead zone, was now setting the national standard for cross-dock efficiency. Jordan stood beside me, her iPad lighting up with KPIs that used to make us nervous. Now they just confirmed what we already knew. She grinned. "You're really doing this, Eli." I gave her a sideways glance. "We are." Across the room, Maddie was walking 2 new hires through our predictive logistics dashboard, something she built from scratch in 3 months. Arturo was on a video call with field teams in Boise, planning our West Coast playbook. This wasn't a team. It was a movement. And they weren't following me because I had a title. They followed because they believed. One Friday, just before I left the office, I stopped in the main hallway. There was a glass panel they'd installed a month earlier. The Mercer Wall of Founders. Quotes from people who'd shaped the company over the last 30 years. Lauren had added something new at the bottom, in gold script. "Leadership isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about making damn sure the right voices get heard." EC. I stood there a long time, hand on the glass. Not out of pride. Out of peace. That night, I walked into my house in Evergreen, Colorado. Marion was in the kitchen, lighting candles. Music played low, old Sam Cooke. The fireplace was going. She looked at me like I hadn't aged a day. "You smell like boardrooms and vengeance," she joked, handing me a glass of bourbon. "Mercer's new cologne," I said, laughing. She kissed my cheek. "You're happy." "I am." And I meant it. Not because I won. Not because I'd proven Miles Jacoby and Brendan Stokes wrong. But because I'd proven me right. That integrity doesn't expire. That age isn't a liability, it's leverage. That if you hold the line long enough, with enough grit and grace, the world stops asking, "What have you done lately?" and starts saying, "Lead us." I leaned back in that armchair by the fire. Bourbon warm in my hand. Phone lighting up with team wins from across the country. And in that quiet moment, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel wronged. I didn't even feel triumphant. I just felt ready. For tomorrow. For the next chapter. For everything still left to build. Because they were wrong about one thing. My time wasn't over. It had just begun.